So now let us start with our presentation of explicit dimension tagging. The basic difference between type dimension and explicit dimension is that in type dimension you can create as many number of members as you want, and in explicit dimension the numbers are defined, limited to whatever numbers are there in the taxonomy. You cannot increase with that number. So let me open my balance sheet Excel file again. Again, for my demo purpose, I'll go up to row number 45 only. I'll enter the name of company, our sample company. Permanent account number can be done. And address of the company can be again dummy address. And date of board meeting, then accounts were approved. Maybe it's the 28th of May. And other details remains the same. And we click on save. Now I want to include my share capital information from row number 44 onwards. To do that, I'll click on tree, select taxonomy as INGAAP MCA, select type as definition. I'll select notes to shares capital or share capital. Again, right click, select and right click disclosure of classes of share capital table. Right click, view dimension table. Now it will show you the table which is to be used for share capital. You will notice that we have typed or we have explicit members in equity shares up to 10 members here. Then we have total, which is subtotal of equity shares, which is this. Then we have 10 numbers of preference shares, then subtotal of preference shares, and then finally grand total of equity share, grand total of share capital, which is the sum of equity shares and preference shares. So I'll export this to ref starting from row number 44. I'll say yes. It will be shown like this. Now for demo purpose, I'm putting the values here as 0 only, but you can always copy and paste the data from your source file. It could be either PDF, Word or Excel. So here I'll mention the type of equity, type of shares as equity. The number of shares authorized is 0. I'm putting dummy data here. And I'm putting par value of shares 10. This is for equity share 1. I don't have information. If you have information or the data available for equity share type 2, you can always enter in this column. And similarly, you can enter for more. Now, since I want to scroll this table, I can always freeze this column. Right click and say freeze column. Now I can scroll without disturbing my A column, and I am always aware of what are the line items for which I am doing the tagging. So number of authorized shares, which is actually the subtotal of equity share. So I am putting 0. Now If I have any preference shares details, I can enter under one preference share. If I have another for preference share, I can enter there, and then subtotal of preference shares can be entered after preference share 10 member, and then finally the share capital, which is the sum of all equity shares and all preference shares. So I'm putting this out here again hypothetically. Okay. Now we are required to do tagging here. And by the way, we have created in our software dimension table members for other classes also, nodes also, like for reserves and surplus. If you want to see, this is the table, right click, view dimension table. It will be shown like this. Okay. Again, you can export anywhere in the right side here, and if you have, say, borrowings, you just have to select the table line item, classification of borrowings table, and right click and see the dimensions. This will be shown like this. You have long-term members, bonds, secure. That's how it can be. So we have, and these tables are created dynamically based on the taxonomy structure and the classification. Okay. Now, since we have done data entry for the equity shares here, we need to do the tagging here. For tagging, we'll go to automatic, select taxonomy INGAAP, load, and say start automatic tagging. Again, based on the line items that we have selected or chosen or written in our source file and the mappings that are available in our software, those will be tagged automatically. And also, depending on the number of rows and columns that you have in your source file on the right, it will take that much of time for tagging also. Okay. So most of the data has been tagged here automatically, like here, this one. Now we are required to apply dimension context for the nodes to shares here. So to do that, we'll go to tree again, select taxonomy INGAAP, go to definition, select nodes share capital 200100, disclosure of classes of share capital, table, under table you have access, under access you have member, under member you have two types of members, which is equity share member and preference share members. Now since we are tagging for equity share member 1, so we'll select equity share member 1, right click, use dimension. Now in this column we have data for two types, which is instant and duration type. So, but this is for 2012, ending 2012. So we'll select these two, one for instant, which is ending 31st March 2012, and one for the duration, and click on add. So go to dimension tab at the bottom, see, check. This is the duration now, and duration equity is actually duration type, so it will be applied there. And number of shares authorized, this is instant type. Value is instant. Number of shares issued is instant. Value of shares issued is instant. Number of shares subscribed and fully paid is instant. Value of shares subscribed and fully paid is instant. Number of shares subscribed but not fully paid is instant. Value of shares subscribed but not fully paid is instant. Number of shares paid up is instant. Value of shares paid up is instant. However, par value of shares is duration type, so we will apply duration here. Now we are done with B column tagging and dimension context tagging also. We are required to move to column L, which is actually the subtotal of equity shares, but this is equity share member. So we need to select equity share member here. Right click, use dimension. Again, this is of instant type. We will add and go to dimension tab at the bottom. This is instant. Drag and drop to all these data which are of instant type, but taking as a subtotal of instant, subtotal of the equity share. Now you are done with context dimension context mapping for column L also. We now move further, which is actually share capital member, and this is the sum of equity and preference share for the instant period ending 31st of March 2012. So for that, I'll go to calendar, select date here. This is instant type as on 31st of March 2012, B2. I'll apply this context. Now we are done with this. We need to save this file as a ref. Maybe I'll save this as test1. Save. I'll go to XBRL generator. Open my ref file, which is test1.ref, which I just saved, and generate XBRL. Save it by the name test1.xml. This is the one. This is our XML file created. This is how we have done the tag mapping. If you want to see the context here, the context is like this. This is the context. XBRL context equity number 1. Yes, and goes out of the to this context. So this is how explicit dimension tagging can be done. Thank you.